this is how we got into trouble with the dietary guidelines that started here in America and went around the
Mm-hmm.
world, is they were dogmatic, formulaic, and
Mm-hmm.
it was
And
you know,
based on shaky science, like based
oh
on, it was an egotistical science project that was,
yes, it was
yeah,
never based on solid science of
no,
any sort, conjecture and kind of extrapolation of, well, it because it
cherry
happened,
picked.
might happen. Yes, so we all know about
Yeah,
George
yeah,
McGovern, all the everything. So
yeah,
that's where we got this mentality that there is a way of eating. And so people have been searching for that since the 1980s. And
yeah,
there is no such thing. There is a way that works for you, but it's not going to be some popular diet per se. Now, maybe
no.
that diet will be in pieces of what will help you, but you
Hmm.
got to coach like yourself or others out there that can help you kind of fine tune it to get to what will work best.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I do still get people joining my program and they join and a day later they're emailing me, I want to cancel. I'm like, okay, let's talk about it. I know it's overwhelming because there's a lot of information, but tell me what's going on. I was like, well, there's no set meal plans, there's no set calorie amount, there's no instruction. And I'm like, okay, so the program is actually telling you that you need to work this out for you. I cannot, like Jimmy, I could not tell you what to eat in a day. I could
Right.
not, because I'm not in your body and I'm not listening to the biofeedback. I'm not listening to the symptoms. I could be telling you, like our famous Dr. Berg, eat 12 cups of salad every day. I would die if I ate 12 cups of salad. I would
Same.
die, die. I would wreck my system. So given that kind of dogmatic information, it's something that I never did. Even when I was coaching keto, I always said that, 20 grams is kind of like the point at which the majority of people are going to be in ketosis. But you might be able to eat 60 grams of carbs a day and still have that metabolic flexibility where you're able to burn ketones and carbs at the same time. And that's like your Goldilocks zone. But the problem is, because of the toxic diet culture, it was longer, harder, faster, deeper.
Yes.
Doesn't work.
And let me bring up another thing, and I'm sure you've noticed this too. All the new people that come into the community, they don't know about the basics. So they
Mm.
find some influencer who might happen to be saying, well, if you want to do keto properly, you need this much MCT oil and this much honey with your meat. And they're going to look at those things and go, oh, wow, that's keto, that's carnivore. And so
Mm-hmm.
then they try it. That's not what's right for them. But because this influencer said it, and you're in that loop of, well, keto carnivore didn't work for me. Well,
Mm-hmm.
no, that version didn't. So I wish there
Yeah.
was a way as an on-ramp to help
Mm-hmm.
people that just find the community. How do you find the basic information? It's literally why I wrote my book.
Yeah.
It's literally why there's people like yourself out there
Mm-hmm.
trying to help people get to that core of how they get started. It's the mixed messages, it's the overwhelming messages, I think, that just it confuses people
Mm-hmm.
and frustrates
Yeah.
them through it. If it's going to be that hard, I'll just keep eating my carbs and be happy.
Yeah, exactly. The motto of the protein priority diet is done, not perfect. Because, first of all, perfect stands in the way of getting things done. Okay.
Yeah.
If you look at a ketogenic diet, at first it's like, whoa, right? That is a lot of moving parts to kind of get lined up. But the fact is that you could probably eat 50 grams of carbs a day and still lose weight if you do it right. So if you are adaptable and flexible in your approach, you don't follow this dogma of it has to be 70% of your daily calories from fat. It has to be 20% protein and the rest from carbs. It's that dogma that stops people from achieving their goals in a healthy and sustainable way. It's like every other diet out there. What do you do when you get to your goal weight? How do you maintain that? You
Yeah.
can't, because
No.
you've been in restriction so long, your metabolism has adapted to that. What do? You just keep restricting and restricting and restricting and restricting.
Well, and that's the physical aspect. The
Hmm.
mental aspect
Hmm.
is I want to lose X amount of pounds. I want to get to X amount of dress size. What
Hmm.
happens there? My best friend is a girl who lost a lot of weight on keto, Brittany is her name, and Brittany did very well on keto. And
Hmm.
she literally broke down when she hit her goal, Christina, because there is no off ramp into maintenance. It's
Yeah.
just, all right, good job. Now what?
Now,
And she
yeah.
started like flailing. I needed another goal, something that motivated me,
Hmm.
like the original weight loss and dress size goal. Now I needed something else. So she shifted now her mindset into other kind of performance type things, how she feels, and she's back on kind of a track now, still
Hmm.
struggling a bit with the weight, but yeah, it's one of those things that we don't talk about that nearly enough, and that's toxic. You don't just tell people do this, get healthy, lose the weight, and go on with your life. No, okay, try to make this a lifestyle. I know we
Hmm.
kind of lip service to that, but we don't really tell people how you make it into a lifestyle.
Yeah, exactly. And what happens then is that as you start to get closer to your goal, you start to get the fear, you know, what's going to happen when I get there, and how am I going to go for the rest of my life and not being able to eat an apple, for example. So when that video came out, and I was overwhelmed, like it took me 2 weeks to respond to everybody. Like it was just, there was just so many people coming forward to say, thank you for talking about this. I had the exact same issue. And I have a free Facebook group for anybody who's facing this issue. And in that Facebook group, we were talking about um, people's experiences, right? So I encourage people when they come into the group, tell us your experience, because it helps me decide what kind of content that I'm going to be putting out there to help people. And one woman sent me a direct message, and it's probably the most poignant message that I've ever had in my life, my internet life. And she said, Christina, I watched your video and I went into the kitchen and I got an apple and I ate the apple and I cried my eyes out. And it was like, what have we done? Because I've been part of this. I have perpetuated that message because that's what I was taught when I did my training. This is what I was taught. This is the elixir. This is the answer. This is the magic pill. And there was actually a documentary on keto called The Magic Pill. And it was like, well, no, it's not. Like, because for example, your brain only gets 60 to 70% of its daily calorie needs from ketones. It can't get any more than that. So if you say, well, okay, gluconeogenesis is going to fill in the gap. Yeah, but what's the toll on the rest of your body of that cortisol stimulation for gluconeogenesis and ketogenesis? Nobody talks about that. Ketones only provide 30%. Some studies have shown 30% of the calories you need. So metabolic adaptation happens really early. And the rest needs to come from free fatty acids and from carbs, again, for proper thyroid function and healthy hormone balance in men and women. For example, testosterone, you need some insulin for good testosterone production. Where do you get insulin from? A little bit of carbs. Just eat some peas and carrots. That's all. Not that it's not a big deal, I don't think, anyway.
I'll argue you could get a little bit of an insulin response from higher protein,
Mm-hmm.
uh, gluconeogenesis. But yes, the easiest
Mm-hmm.
way is a little bit of carbs.
Yeah,
Um, Going to upset people, obviously, and that's
yeah,
okay. I'm rocking the boat a little bit. That's
yeah.
kind of been my signature for a long time. But I feel like we need to have these conversations. And the fact that you got booted out of a keto group because you dared to say have a little carbs to help regulate your hormones, that's disgusting. That is
Yes,
disgusting. We
but
can't have these conversations within our own community. Where is it going to happen?
no, and it's not like I've been kicked out of quite a few groups. It's not the first one that I was
It's
kicked out of.
trained ketogenic specialist. Like it's
Yeah,
not like you're just some Joe Schmo saying this. You got credentials.
I'm not chiropractor.
Yeah, you're not a chiropractor.
Okay. Okay, that's naughty. Let's not go there. But no, I am a I'm a qualified nutritionist, and you know, somebody said to me, "Well, if you're a proper nutritionist, why did you let yourself get so fat in the first place?" Like I questioned your qualifications. It's like,
Oh,
okay, so clearly you've never heard of me before. Like this is the first video you've seen, because what happened was I started to get overweight, obese when I was about 8 years old. And right up until 2016, I was morbidly obese for more than 20 years. When I lost the weight, I went and became a nutritionist so that I could help other people who are struggling the way I had. And then I went and got my ketogenic qualification as to become a certified specialist. And I trained with Tim Noakes. He's like the godfather of low carb.
Yes.
So to question my qualifications.
Well, and the whole notion that you're supposed to look a certain way. Look, I know I have not been invited to specific conferences to speak because of my weight. I know that. And it's disgusting. Like, they don't take into account there's so many other kind of reasons why things might not be moving. And it's not just always a diet thing. Well, you must not be eating keto. I'm like, screw you. I went through the hardest mental thing I ever went through for much of like 3 years ago until about a year ago. Hardest thing I went through in my life, dealing with childhood trauma stuff and some other things in my life going on. And you don't think that has an impact on your body? Of course it does. And yet, well, you're not eating keto. Yeah, I am. But my body's like, yeah, I'm in survival mode with this.
Yeah.
And we don't talk about that either. That is toxic to deny. And people mock me all the time because I talk about childhood trauma. And they're like, oh, well, this is a convenient scapegoat to talk about childhood trauma causing this. And I'm like, it's real. Like, let's stop.
We're human. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, I find that it's really a case of these toxic diet standards is what's put on everybody. Because when I say to people, oh, I'm a nutritionist and I specialize in weight loss, I know people look at me and kind of go,
yeah.
And I'm like, well, I know you're thinking, like, how can you be a weight loss coach when you're overweight? It's like, well, you should have seen me before. You should have seen me before.
Yes, like I'm 50 years old now, Christina, and I'm healthier, even though I'm a big boy still, I'm healthier than most of my peers from a mental health standpoint, from able to sleep. I'm getting in freaking ice baths every day for 5 minutes a day. Like, I'm doing things that are a sign of really good health and strength. I think we need to stop judging health and strength and vitality on just whatever your current weight is, what people think you.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I was saying about how this has become so toxic, is that we are accepting decline in practically all of our health markers as long as the number on the scale is going down. So when you come into my program, I have a metabolic recovery program as part of the protein priority diet. It has multiple plans within it, right? So there's always something for everyone. But one of the plans is the metabolic recovery plan. And when you come in, the first thing I say to you is, you're probably going to gain weight doing this plan, but it's health regain weight, right? Because you're coming to me and your health markers are so bad that needs to be fixed first. Because if you try and continue to perpetuate the same thing, you're going to get the same results. You're going to get weight gain. Whereas if we flip it and we say, right, okay, we're going to fix those health markers, you might gain 5 or 10 pounds, but guess what? You are sleeping like a baby. You are waking up refreshed. You have no mind fog. You have the energy to be with your family. You don't have wild mood swings. You don't feel cold all the time. You feel vital and you feel good. Your digestion is good. And all of those things are signs that your body and your metabolism are recovering. And if you have to sacrifice 5 pounds on the scale, if you say no, then there's more work needs to be done there.